The day the elders tried to burn down the school was the most terrifying day the people of Dendebiri had ever seen. I remember waking up to the smell of smoke and the sound of distant shouting. The sky was still dark and the air was filled with a chilling sense of foreboding. I rushed outside to see a group of men marching toward the school, torches in hand, their faces twisted with anger. They were convinced that Boma's idea would bring ruin to our traditions, but what happened next would change our village forever. Boma, the headmaster who had dedicated his life building this school, stood alone in front of the building, his silhouette cast against the flickering flames. His face was set with determination, his eyes reflecting the firelight as he faced the angry mob. This school is a threat to our way of life, Nengi, one of the elders, shouted, his voice echoing through the still of the night. The crowd murmured in agreement, their fears amplified by the rumors that had spread like poison. But Boma did not waver. He stepped forward, his voice ringing out with clarity and strength. Our children deserve a future, he said, his tone unyielding. Education is not the enemy. Ignorance is. We must give them a chance to learn, to grow, to become more than what we have been. As the mob grew closer, I felt a knot of fear tighten in my chest. Would Boma be able to stand against this wave of hostility? Or would the school and all it represented be reduced to ashes before our eyes? The crowd's anger was palpable, a tide of emotion fueled by a deep-seated fear of the unknown. The elders believed that the school would lead the children away from the tradition that had defined us for generations, that it would sow discord and rebellion. Just when it seemed that chaos was inevitable, an unexpected voice pierced the tension. It was Amma, a respectable elder and one of the fiercest critics of the school. She pushed her way through the crowd, her presence commanding attention. "Stop!" she cried, stepping between Boma and the advancing crowd. "We must listen before we act." Her words were firm, her eyes locking with those of her fellow elders. The mob hesitated, their anger momentarily cooled by Amma's commanding presence. This was not the first time Amma had intervened in a village conflict, but her stance against her peers was unexpected. What could have possibly changed her mind? Amma's intervention was a turning point, a moment of clarity amidst the chaos. The torches wavered, the angry cries subsided, and for a brief moment there was silence. Boma took a deep breath, grateful for the reprieve. He knew he had to seize this opportunity to speak to the hearts of the villagers, to make them see that the school was not a threat but a promise of a better future. "I understand your fears," Boma said, his voice steady, "but we must look beyond them. Trust me, our children are the future of this village. We must give them the tools they need to succeed, to bring prosperity to us all." His words hung in the air, a challenge and a plea. Slowly, one by one, the villagers began to lower their torches, their anger giving way to uncertainty. Amma's support had given Boma the chance to make his case, and he intended to make the most of it. But as the night wore on, Boma realized that this was only the beginning of a long and difficult journey. The villagers' fears ran deep, and it would take more than words to win them over. He knew he had to uncover the truth behind their resistance, to find the key that would unlock their hearts. And so, as the crowd dispersed and the flames died down, Boma stood alone in the darkness, his mind racing with possibilities. He had taken the first step, but the path ahead was fraught with challenges and uncertainty. Amma handed Boma an old-looking brown leather bag just before she left the school compound. "The contents of this bag will help you understand why the people of Dendebiri acted in the manner they did tonight," she said. Boma took the bag and thanked her for her timely intervention, which quelled the mayhem that would have been unleashed tonight. The following day, while sitting behind his desk in his office. Boma opened the bag to discover that it contained a collection of faded letters, their ink smudged with age. The discovery of the letters was a turning point for Boma. He spent countless nights poring over their content, piecing together a narrative of hope and betrayal that had long been hidden from the village. The letters revealed that years ago, the village had been on the brink of embracing education thanks to a visionary leader named Tonye. Tonye had been a charismatic figure, much like Boma, who believed in the transformative power of knowledge. However, just as his plans were taking shape, a terrible tragedy struck. A mysterious fire destroyed the first school, and Tonye was blamed for it. Accused of abandoning the village in his time of need, the villagers turned their backs on him, and he vanished into obscurity, his dreams of progress smoldering in the ashes of that terrible night. As Boma read through the letters, a picture began to emerge, a picture of a village at a crossroads, torn between the promise of a brighter future and the weight of its traditions. The letters revealed that Tonye had been a beloved figure, a man who had dedicated his life to the betterment of the community. He had believed in the power of education to lift people out of poverty, to open doors to new possibilities and opportunities. But Tonye's vision had been met with resistance. The elders, fearing that education would erode the village cultural values, had opposed his efforts at every turn. They had spread rumors and sown doubt, painting Tonye as an outsider who sought to impose his will on the community. Despite the opposition, Tonye had pressed on, determined to prove the value of education. He had gathered a group of supporters, villagers who had shared his dream and believed in the power of knowledge. Together, they had built a small school, a place where children could learn and grow. But then the fire happened. It had started in the dead of night, consuming the school in a blaze of flames. The villagers had awoken to the smell of smoke and the sight of their dreams going up in flame. In the aftermath, fingers were pointed, and Tonye was blamed for the tragedy. The elders accused him of being reckless, of putting the village at risk for the sake of his ambition. Tonye had tried to defend himself, to explain that the fire was an accident, a tragic turn of fate, but his words fell on deaf ears and he was cast out, his vision for the village shattered. As Boma absorbed the contents of the letters, he realized that the fear and suspicion that had gripped the village were rooted in this tragic history. The villagers had been born, quite literally, by the promise of progress, and they were reluctant to trust again. But Boma also saw an opportunity. If he could uncover the truth behind the fire, if he could prove that Tonye had been unjustly blamed, perhaps he could convince the village to give education another chance. With this goal in mind, Boma sought out Ama, the elder who had stood by him during the confrontation with the mob. He shared future plans and the benefits the school would bring for the people of Dendebiri, hoping to enlist her help in spreading the truth. Ama listened intently, her expression unreadable. When Boma finished, she sat in silence for a long moment before speaking. Tonye was my stepbrother, she revealed quietly. Her voice tinged with sorrow. He was misunderstood, but he never stopped believing in the power of education. He wanted what was best for the village, but fear and suspicion clouded their judgment. Ama's revelations sent shockwaves through Boma. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall in place. He realized that Ama's intervention had been driven by a desire to honor her stepbrother's legacy. We must show the village the truth, Ama said, her voice resolute. We must prove that education is not a threat, but a path to a brighter future. Together, Boma and Ama devised a plan to hold a village meeting before a fortnight. where they would present the letters and Tonye's vision to everyone. It was a risky move, but they knew it was their best chance to change hearts and minds. As the day of the meeting approached, tensions rose once more. The elders were divided, and some staunchly opposed to revisiting the past. They feared that dragging up old wounds would only lead to more conflict and division. However, Boma was undeterred. He had seen the spark of hope in the eyes of the children he taught, and he knew that the future depended on their ability to learn and grow. The village meeting was set for a bright, sunny afternoon under the great mango tree. The air was heavy with anticipation. Everyone knew this gathering was not just about the school. It was about confronting the past and deciding the future of Dendebiri. Boma stood at the center of the gathering, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The mango tree cast a long shadow over the crowd, a silent witness to the history that had unfolded beneath its branches. Amma stood by his side, her presence a source of strength and reassurance. She had spent the days leading to the meeting speaking to the villagers, sharing her stepbrother's story and encouraging them to listen with open hearts and minds. The elders were there too, their expressions ranging from skepticism to curiosity. Nenge, the elder who had challenged Boma so fiercely, sat at the front, his arm crossed and his gaze unwavering. As Boma prepared to speak, he took a deep breath, centering himself and finding his voice. We are here today to honor the past and look toward the future, Boma began, his voice steady and clear. Many of you know the story of Tonye, a man who dreamed of a better life for this village, but there are parts of his story that have been hidden, parts that reveal the true nature of his vision. With that, Boma began to tell the tale of Tonye and the letters he had discovered. He spoke of Tonye's dream and the tragic fire that had destroyed them. He explained how fear and misunderstanding had led to Tonye's downfall and how the truth had been buried for so long. Amma stepped forward, adding her voice to Boma's. She spoke of her stepbrother's unwavering dedication, his love for the village, and his belief in the power of knowledge to transform life. Her words were heartfelt and moving, a testament to the bond that had existed between her and Tonye. But just as the tide seemed to be turning, Nengi rose to his feet, his voice cutting through the air like a knife. We have heard these promises before, he said, his tone sharp and questioning. How do we know that history will not repeat itself? How do we know that this school will not bring more harm than good? Boma took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. He knew that he needed to address these concerns head-on if he was to win the trust of the village. He couldn't rely on words alone. He needed to show them a vision of what was possible. Change is never easy, Boma acknowledged, his gaze sweeping across the crowd. But I believe in the strength of this community and the potential of our children. We have the power to shape our future, to learn from the mistakes of the past, and to build a brighter future. His words resonated with many in the crowd, sparking murmurs of agreement and nods of approval. But Nengi remained unconvinced, his arms crossed defiantly. Just as Boma was about to respond, a sudden gust of wind swept through the gathering, rustling the branches of the mango tree and sending a flurry of leaves swirling through the air. It was as if nature itself was urging the village to listen, to open their hearts to the possibility of change. In that moment, Ikubie, the young girl who had joined Boma's lessons, stepped forward. Her small voice carried across the crowd as she spoke with a courage that belied her age. "I want to learn," Ikubie said, her eyes shining with determination. "I want to be a doctor one day and help our village. Please, let us have the chance to learn and grow." Ikubie's plea was meant with a wave of emotion, her innocence and sincerity touching the hearts of those gathered. Even Nenge seemed to waver, his expression softening as he considered the potential of the next generation. As Boma watched the villagers' reaction, he felt a glimmer of hope. There were still challenges to overcome and minds to change, but for the first time, it felt possible. The whispers of betrayal were being drowned out by the promise of a new dawn. Boma knew that he had gained the support of some villagers, but others remained skeptical. The elders in particular were divided, their opinions split between those who saw the potential for progress and those who clung to tradition. Amma continued to be a steadfast ally, using her influence to rally support for the school, but not everyone was convinced. Nenge, the elder who had been Boma's fiercest critic, remained a vocal opponent. He feared that the school would lead the children away from the village, that it would erode their cultural identity and weaken their connections to their roots. Nenge's concerns were shared by a small but vocal group of villagers who worried that the school would change the fabric of their community. They feared that the children would become disconnected with their tradition and they would lose sight of the values that had sustained the village for generations. Boma understood their fears, but he also knew that the future of the village depended on his ability to adapt and grow. He had seen firsthand the transformative power of education, and he was determined to show the villagers that they could embrace progress without sacrificing their heritage. In an effort to bridge the gap between tradition and progress, Boma organized a cultural festival where the children performed traditional dances and songs they had learned alongside their academic studies. The festival was a resounding success, drawing praise from villagers who marveled at the children's confidence and skill. The festival showcased the best of both worlds, blending the old and the new in a celebration of the village's unique identity. It was a moment of unity, a reminder that progress and tradition could coexist harmoniously. As the festival came to a close, Boma felt a sense of accomplishment. He had shown the village that the school was not a threat but a promise to a brighter future. The festival had been a turning point, a moment when villagers saw the potential of education in a new light. But even as the mood in the village began to shift, Boma knew that there were still challenges to overcome. The elders' skepticism remained a barrier, and Nenge's opposition continued to cast a shadow over his efforts. Determined to win over the remaining skeptics, Boma sought to engage the elders in dialogue, to address their concerns and show them the value of education. He invited them to visit the school, to see for themselves the impact that learning was having on the children. To his surprise, Nenge accepted the invitation. It was a small but significant victory, a sign that perhaps he was willing to reconsider his stance. As Nenge taught the school, Boma watched him closely, hoping to see a change of heart. He saw the elders' eyes widen in surprise as he observed the children's eagerness to learn, their enthusiasm for subjects that range from mathematics to history to science. The visit culminated in a conversation between Boma and Nenge, a candid exchange of ideas and perspective. Nenge voiced his concerns, his fears that the school would lead the children away from the village, that it would erode their cultural identity. Boma listened carefully, acknowledging the elders' concern, while also making a case for the benefits of education. He spoke of the opportunities that learning could bring, the doors it could open for the children and the village as a whole. Nenge listened, his expression thoughtful, He had seen the impact of education firsthand, and he could no longer deny the potential it held for the people of Dendebiri. The conversation ended with a promise to continue the dialogue, to work together to find a way forward that honored both the past and the future. It was a small step, but it was a step in the right direction. The months following the cultural festival were a period of intense activity and transformation for the village. The initial resistance had begun to wane, but there were still significant hurdles to overcome. Boma's efforts were met with both enthusiastic support and stubborn opposition. The village's evolution into a community embracing education was neither immediate nor smooth. As the school's reputation grew, so did the enrollment. More parents began sending their children to Boma School, driven by the success stories of students who had thrived academically and personally. The school walls, once a battleground of ideologies, now echoed with the sound of eager learners. Amma remained a critical ally. Her support was invaluable, and she worked tirelessly to bridge gaps between the elders and the newer generation. She organized community gatherings where students showcased their talents, blending traditional performance with modern achievements. These events were not just celebrations, but also demonstrations of how education could enhance rather than diminish the village cultural heritage. One day, a significant challenge arose. A group of traditionalists led by Nenge, who had initially opposed the school, began organizing secret meetings. They spread rumors that the school's curriculum was designed to undermine the village tradition and value. Their goal was to incite fear and skepticism among the villagers, undermining the progress that had been made. Boma was aware of this development but chose to confront them with transparency rather than confrontation. He invited Nenge and his supporters to his special assembly, where he intended to address their concerns openly. The day of the assembly arrived and the village gathered once more around the mango tree. The atmosphere was tense and the air thick with anticipation. Boma stood before the crowd, flanked by Amma and several of the school top students. Nenge took the stage first, his voice carrying a mix of authority and concern. "We have heard troubling reports about the school," he began. "Rumors of teachings that deviate from our tradition. We need to ensure that our children remain grounded in our values." Boma listened attentively, his expression calm but resolute. When it was his turn to speak, he addressed the concerns with clarity and passion. "Our goal," Boma said, "has always been to enrich our children's lives, not to erase our tradition. The curriculum includes lessons about our history, our values, and our culture. Education is not a threat but an opportunity to deepen our understanding and appreciation of who we are." Boma took the opportunity to engage with Nenge directly. "I understand your fears," he said, "but education is not about replacing our tradition. It's about building upon them. By learning and growing, we can preserve and celebrate our heritage while also adapting to the future." Nenge's expression was thoughtful. He had always been a staunch defender of tradition, but seeing the students' success and their respectful homage to their cultural roots made him reconsider his stance. The doubts in his mind began to clear, and he found himself questioning whether his fears had been misplaced. The assembly ended with a renewed sense of unity. The village was beginning to see the benefits of embracing education while preserving its cultural identity. The resistance that had once seemed insurmountable was gradually melting away, replaced by a growing acceptance of Boma's vision. Years passed, and Dendebiri transformed into a thriving community where education and tradition coexisted in harmony. The school that Boma had fought so hard to establish had become a beacon of hope and opportunity, shaping the lives of countless students. the central government recognized the sacrifices of Toyin and Boma to advance the acceptance of education in the oceanic communities. In their honor, the government established the Toyin Sosiprala Federal Polytechnic Dendebiri, an ultramodern educational institution by all standards. Boma was awarded the most prestigious honorary diploma when the institution produced its first HND graduates. As the village continued to thrive, Boma remained a central figure in its success. His dedication and wisdom had sparked a transformation. He was honored for his contributions. Celebrations were held in his name, and he was widely recognized as a hero who had bridged the gap between tradition and progress. Toyin's family presented Boma with a token of their appreciation, a beautifully crafted wooden plate inscribed with a message of thanks. The plate was adorned with the symbol of the village tradition and values, a testament to the harmonious blending of past and present. As Boma held the plate, he was filled with a sense of fulfillment and pride. He had faced countless challenges and opposition, but he had remained steadfast in his commitment to education. The village's transformation was a testament to the power of perseverance and the impact of education on individuals and communities. Boma's story became woven into the fabric of the village history, a story of courage, vision, and enduring belief in the potential of the next generation. The moral lesson of this story is that one must always strive to ensure that the knowledge we acquire by learning new things should strategically be used to improve the circumstances surrounding our original way of life, irrespective of the challenges that we encounter along the way. Education indeed possesses a transformative power. We sincerely appreciate the fact that you watched till this moment. We would love to know your thoughts on this tale, so kindly share in the comment section below. We truly hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, share it with your families and friends, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button for this channel and turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Thank you.